getting reset. 1/3 is getting ready to be deployed by doing the training. And if they can't fly, if they can't, drive the trucks, if they can't fire the ammunition, they are not trained and they are not ready when they go into combat to do the missions we're asking them to do. And it is an enormous problem. As far as the solution, I guess I could just say, we have the budget chair here. So I'll punt it over to her. But look, and Patty will explain this a lot better than I can, but I had a conversation with Paul Ryan the other day in the gym. It's Medford, he spends a lot of time there. So it's a good place to have a conversation. Look, the Republican position is straightforward. No new revenue, period. No, I'm sorry, you look like I'm missing your question, and I didn't think I was.
It's about deploying units. The problem that we're having is that units are deploying,
right.
And they're not getting the equipment. It's not training. It's not air training hours. It's
right.
Going to Afghanistan and not being able to purchase the proper weapons.
Right.
That's the big issue.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I've heard about that. I've looked into it with the military. I want to talk to you for. I have not seen that actually happening.
Well, sequestration is having a chilling effect through all the units, so they don't know how much money they have. So they deploy, and they're not buying any of the equipment. Third Special Forces Group is in Bagram right now, and they had to purchase their own barrels for their weapons. Yeah,
I've seen stories like that before. I haven't seen a single one of them that turned out to be accurate. So I'll talk to you about it further. But the one thing I know, DoD, if they deploy, I've heard these stories about a whole bunch of things. What they're doing is they're cutting back at home, not cutting forward. But if they're cutting forward, that's something I definitely want to look into. The point on the budget is, the Republican position is no taxes. You got to cut mandatory to make up for sequester. We don't support that. But with that, I'll introduce Senator Patty Murray, who is the budget chair. And I was like to say, once upon a time, we were in an office together back in the Washington State Senate in 1991. I always think back and wonder what you had to think of me and Jeff back in those days. But anyway, we managed to fight our way through it. So, and let me tell you, there's all this talk about Warren Magnuson, Henry Jackson, how we'll ever replace them and everything. What Senator Murray has done in her now 20, right? I mean, to have risen in leadership on the Appropriations Committee, to be the budget chair. Patty is every little bit the power in the Senate that we've ever had there. And in my office, I always used to joke when Norm was here that whenever we needed to get anything done, the first thing was, well, we got to go talk to Norm. Well, now we've exposed, we got to go talk to Patty. She has a level of influence and a level of ability as a legislator and a politician that I have always admired. And it's just great to see you doing so well in the Senate, even in these difficult times. And we look forward to your comments and thank you for your great work.
Good morning. Thank you so much. And Adam, my daughter, who used to give you complete grief in that office that she shared, she was 8 years old at the time, is now an attorney, and she's giving everybody else grief up in Snohomish County, so she's continued that course. Great to see you all here. And first of all, I apologize for being a bit late. I was actually at the Naval Observatory having breakfast with Joe Biden, my friend from the Senate, now Vice President, one-on-one. And it's very hard to tell Joe Biden, excuse me, I have another meeting. And so he was talking and we had a great conversation about a lot of things. But I am delighted to be here. And the first thing I need to say to all of you is that I am delighted that Adam is your representative fighting for you here in Congress. He does a really great job, really understands the people of the district, and is just himself ridden into a very good place for all of us in Washington State in terms of his leadership on his committees and his understanding of our state and advocacy. So Adam, thank you so much for the great and tremendous job you do. I want to make sure I leave a little bit of time for you, so I'm just going to quickly say that the number one issue for all of us, whether it's we're wearing our budget hats or our armed services hats or whatever it is making sure that our economy is stronger and that we create the jobs and the support system for those jobs in Washington State. And the 9th District is doing some great things, as always, whether it's aerospace or maritime, sort of the traditional jobs of that district, but the new and emerging cybersecurity cluster that is being created is just a great and exciting opportunity for the district and the region as well. And we have to make sure that in Congress we are supporting the kinds of efforts that help build and create those, whether it's a transportation system or whether it's an education system that makes sure we've got people with the skills for those jobs in our region. Those are some of the things that Adam and I both really work on and which I think about every time I am working on a budget. And of course, veterans, which you were talking about military when I walked in, but for all the military, we also have a large number of veterans, and for them, I continue to really focus on not just the health care and the waiting list and all that drives everybody just crazy, and we have to really focus on, but also making sure when they come home and transition into our communities that they've got the skills and the capability of having a job, and we deal with the high unemployment rate for our returning war heroes who have become veterans and are facing very high unemployment rates. We've been very excited to pass legislation to help them in that transition, but it's now up to our public-private community to really make sure they open their doors and do the right thing in their workplace, and I encourage all of you to do that as well. I just want to say a quick word about the budget. As you know, I am budget chairman and have passed our budget in the Senate. Paul Ryan is my counterpart in the House. We have vastly different views of where our country should be going. I really focused on both the economy and the investments that we need to make that I just talked about, education and infrastructure, research that is important to getting our economy back on track and working our way towards a deficit, or reducing our deficit and our debt in the long run. But Paul Ryan and I are now facing each other off. I don't go to the gym, thank you. To do that, we actually meet in an office. But it is one of our biggest challenges. And for me, in this debate, we need to keep our eye on the ball of reducing our debt and deficit. It is absolutely critical. But we also have a deficit when it comes to our infrastructure spending. We need to be able to do Highway 167, and we need to be able to increase the capacity so our ports can be successful, and not just in our region but across the nation. And we have a crumbling infrastructure. We need to make sure that we are educating our young people and not leaving them behind, and that they have the skills they need. It is hard for me as a former preschool teacher many years ago to watch China say, oh, if we want to be competitive internationally, we need to make sure we have done preschool and every child in the 2, 3, 4-year-old age is getting the structure they need, when we are sitting here in Washington, D.C. and as a result of sequester and budget cuts are cutting back Head Start all over the country. We're just, that's not the path that will lead us to a brighter future. So these are some of the things I'm fighting for in the budget. But the sequester is also a critical part of this negotiation. The House budget puts sequester in place for the next 10 years. You think these 5 months are bad? Wait till we do that every single year for the next 10 years. We are not going to be able to have the kind of competitive economy that we need for the coming global workplace that we live in. So to me, replacing that sequester is absolutely a critical part of this. We cannot continue to watch as we have people telling us at home that they are the fear in the communities. I heard your question as I walked in about the services cutting back and not doing anything because of the chill factor. That is happening not just in the military, it's happening in our housing industry, it's happening in our all of our agencies that serve women who are victims of violence. It is just across the board, everybody's cutting back. I was over in Bremerton last week, and people in small businesses on Main Street are telling me because of the fear of furloughs that are coming to our civilian employees at Kitsap, the businesses have seen a huge reduction in people buying pizza and clothes for their kids. So this is incredibly important for our economy, that we replace the sequester with a balance of the right kinds of cuts and revenue, and it's something that I think we all have got to fight for. So I just saw that Nancy Pelosi, my great friend and a great leader, has just walked in, and I want to have an opportunity, if you have just a minute.
Take a couple of questions.
Take a couple of questions before I go. Yeah.
Yes, all the way down, right.
Rich Perkins, Transportation Institute. Thank you for all your great work, Senator. One of the things that you mentioned was the private sector coming to the plate and helping veterans find employment. I brought this up a year ago. It still is a problem with the Coast Guard giving certifications to military folks that have the training, that have the seat time that we need to get them on rated positions on vessels. I think it's at the point where a nudge from you to the Commandant would be help to kind of get them to get their act together.
Absolutely. I will follow up on that with you because I know how critical that is. So my staff's here with me. We'll make sure we do that.
Anybody else? Yes.
In the back, yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
He's.
I'm Martha Angel from the Seattle Lighthouse, and I wanted to talk about transportation. Throughout the state, I know that the state is allowing counties to make decisions about local transportation, and we've seen several cuts, and they're severely impacting individuals and their ability to get to work, especially within the Lyme community. And I'm wondering if there's any role on the federal level to encourage the continuation of public transportation in individual counties rather than making a decision to counties.
Well, the federal policy on transportation is exactly that. When we reauthorize our highway bill and our transit bill every year, part of what we do is incentives to states to do the right things. I would love to get from you some personal examples of where that has been an impact for you that we can look at as we go into the next reauthorization cycle. There are some provisions in it, but would love to hear from you what some of the real challenges that you are when we have time for a longer conversation.
We'll take one more if anyone's got one great question. Yes, sir.
Senator, last year the Surgeon General premiered a movie called The State Fire at the Pentagon on healthcare reforms that could help servicemen coming back from Afghanistan. I'm curious if you are aware of those reform suggestions or of the movie.
I've not seen it. What's the? It's a Pentagon produced.
No, it's a movie produced by director Matt Hyman, but it brings many of the healthcare reform challenges together. CNN showed it a few months ago, but I think the Surgeon General highlighted the importance of it when he presented it to the Pentagon, and I haven't heard much about it since then.
Are you talking about service members in service? Are you talking about people who've separated and going into the VA? Are you talking
Well, the
about?
movie really covers healthcare reform in general, but specifically when it comes to the Pentagon, one of the problems that returning servicemen have is addiction to opiate painkillers, and how other alternative methods could be used to alleviate that, and just curious if you were aware of that.
Well, I am aware of what the VA is really looking at in terms of that particular topic and trying, well, I'll just say, I was in a meeting several years back when a young woman who was a returning soldier from several tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan came home severe injuries. She had two little twins who were 2 years old, and she said to me, this is probably 5 years ago, all the VA will do is subscribe to me painkillers. I can't take them. I have two 2-year-olds. And I think the VA is trying very hard to try and do what our whole nation needs to do, is to look at alternative ways to deal with pain medication and not just continually rely on that. The University of Washington is doing some great research on this. The VA is as well. I'd like to take a look at that movie, but I think it's a problem for returning soldiers because it's just too easy to prescribe. I think the VA is aware of that and focused on that, but it's a problem for our entire nation as well.
I'd be happy to send you a link or a
Great.
DVD.
Would you do that?
Sure.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, I know that Nancy is here and Adam is tuning that. I just want to mention one other issue. I'm headed to the White House right now, as Nancy may know, because of the issue of military sexual assault. It is something I have focused on for a very long time. I've introduced legislation, bipartisan legislation in the Senate with Kelly Ayotte to deal with this issue, and it is something I feel very passionate about. When you sign up to serve for the military, your comrades have to be there to have your back. And when that is undermined, it undermines our military security, and we are going to get after this. So just want to let you know.
Thank you. Just a couple comments on those last two questions that came up. the National Defense Authorizing Act Human Services Committee is going to have some very aggressive legislation to try to improve the dealing with sexual assault, because it is a major epidemic problem. That's something we're going to try to deal with in our bill. And then the issue on returning veterans in healthcare, there is a lot that we can do in terms of figuring out how to help people who are returning from a combat situation. And we've done a very, very poor job of it historically. But there's a lot that is being learned right now. You're right, it is just medication. You don't feel well, here, take a pill. There is a lot of other ways to sort of take care of your mind and your body that are being developed and are beginning to be implemented by the military. That's something else that we've worked on in our bill very aggressively. I mean, mind fitness approaches that aren't just, getting you addicted to painkillers and different medications. A lot of very good things have been done that are really starting to show very positive results in the Marine Corps, the Army, a lot of folks are using. So we're trying to get that implemented as well. Well, now it's my great pleasure to introduce the Minority Leader of the House, the first female Speaker of the House for 4 fascinating years when we were in the majority. I've described that it wasn't not a slow time, let's put it that way. There was a lot going on, and I've said this before when I've introduced Nancy, but I'll say it again. Leading a caucus, any caucus, there's got to be a certain amount of sympathy for John Boehner on a certain level. I'll leave that to you, but because you've had that job. Because no matter how many there are in your caucus, it's 200 some odd independent contractors who are all absolutely convinced that they know the right thing to do, and somehow you got to pull a majority of them together to keep the place moving forward. But I think it's a very serious point, actually, and something that we've lost track of. Governing in and of itself is important. We get caught up in my issue has to win, that issue has to win, yet just moving the train forward, passing the laws that are necessary in any society, at the city level, at the county level, at any level, just to get it done so we can continue to function. Because I still think the U.S. is the greatest country in the world. I travel all over the world, and if we're concerned about our government here, spend a little while someplace else, you'll come back and you feel a whole lot better. We do a good job, but we got to do the job. And it takes people like Nancy and, yes, people like John Boehner and people on both sides of the aisle to gather together all of us and get a decision made. It's easy to sit in the back and poke holes in everything, but when you have to make the decision, it's difficult, takes a lot of courage and a lot of ability, and Nancy's been doing that for us for a long time and doing it very, very well. And I appreciate you being here as always.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you again, Adam, Ranking Member of the Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith, for the invitation to be here with you once again. This is really an historic group of people because this is, the 12th time they have come together, the people of the 9th Congressional District of Washington State. I think that's an unsurpassed record for constituent meetings here, and it's no wonder because you are blessed and we are grateful to you for sending such an outstanding member of Congress to Washington. A tribute to the respect he commands on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol, from the administration, from outside leader think tanks and the rest who will be presenting to you today. A couple of thoughts I wanted to share with you. Once again, I thank you for sending him here. As we all know, his responsibilities are largely about national security, but that national security also relates to the strength of the economy and the strength of the American people, and he's so devoted to the district, whether it's the hustle and bustle of the Port of Tacoma or broader, the whole Northwest, Puget Sound, the entire nation. So the creation of jobs, innovation based in manufacturing here in the U.S., whether it's for returning vets, which is our obligation to make sure they have not only jobs but ownership, equity, that they are not only employees but employers. That's what Adam Smith is about. I don't serve on committees now, but I do observe him when we have our veteran service organizations regular meeting. We have representatives, maybe as many as the people in this room, of different veteran service organizations. They come in having established their priorities before each meeting. And I can tell you this, on the Armed Services Committee, as you probably all realize and know and are proud of, Adam Smith has the well-being and the strength of our men and women in uniform right at the forefront of the agenda, about the people. And on the battlefield, the military always says, we will leave no soldier behind. Adam Smith reminds us all the time, when they come home, we leave no veteran behind. So when he comes to our meetings, he speaks with authority, commands respect, gets the job done. Again, we have big issues to deal with. And again, we all respect the leadership he provides in our caucus. Yes, it is diverse, but so is your district. You have joined the ranks of my district, which is the minority-majority district, and that's a beautiful thing. Not that any one of us is better than the next, but the fact is the mix, the beauty in the mix of decision-making and advocacy from different points of view makes a stronger decision, I believe. That's why I'm so proud that our House Democratic Caucus, 54% of it is women, minorities, LGBT community members. Again, with all the respect in the world for our white male colleagues. But as I say to them, you haven't even expressed, and not one is better, but the diversity of opinion is a great strength. Adam, again, you know how exciting it is to represent a variety of people. Adam made a point, so whether it's about jobs, whether it's about innovation, about Make It in America, and that, whether it's about representing the people of the district or about the strength of our country, whether he was on the Foreign Affairs Committee and Armed Services and Intelligence, he had every piece of it. Now in his exalted position, he can't serve on every one of those committees, but he has left a legacy of promoting American values, which is part of our strength on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Intelligence, try to prevent conflict through proper use of intelligence, and now all of those things come together in his important role, which is a very important role for us. Of course, we'd like him to be the chairman of the committee, but that's another subject. What I do want to say, because I think it's important to know, first I want to say what an honor it is to follow Patty Murray. You know, she's an icon herself. I may be the first woman speaker. Here she was, a mom in sneakers, just becoming a United States Senator, just like that. Remarkable. And came here, commands the respect of the United States Senate. Certainly the Democratic leadership wants to know what Patty thinks about anything that is going forward. And that's why she has this really important role of chairman of the Budget Committee. Who better to promote the budget's supposed to be a statement of our national values. What's important to us should be reflected in how we allocate our resources. Who better than somebody like Patty Murray with her close ties to the state of Washington, with all of the national security that you provide, with all of the innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, and with all of the needs that people have to put in a balanced way, and balanced is a word I would also use for Adam Smith. So thank you for sending Patty Murray. But I think it's important to make this point, and again, when we had the majority and President Bush was president, our very diverse caucus respect